Welcome. This is my randomology, and today I am so very happy. I had gone back and forth about doing this particular video because, well, at first when the channel started out, I didn't know that I wanted to do movies that I had already seen. But then I realized that there's a lot of films that I really haven't seen in a very, very, very long time. Some of them, I've already gone through. Akira, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Halloween. All, very important movies to my taste, what I ended up studying in some cases, the way that I approach art, all these things. And yet if we're going to be truthful, there's one movie trilogy that really changed the way that I thought about film and storytelling and visuals, and I'm not the only one. Star Wars, the original, the best, the Star Wars trilogy. So we're going to start with A New Hope today. First time I saw this movie, I may have been 9 or 10. I want to say closer to 10. And I was lucky enough that I got to see the original version. I was born after the movies came out in theaters, but I did have a VHS set that included all three movies in their original un-George Lucas versions. They're in a box somewhere. I really wanted to use those. I wanted to figure out some way of getting a VHS transfer onto this and seeing that original cut. But things being what they are, I'm going to have to go with the ones on Disney Plus, which are the last version that got altered. I believe that's the version where in Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks have eyelids. I don't think I'm ready for that. But we're starting with the first one, episode 4, which is something you have to explain to people that have never seen the movies before. You're starting on the fourth one. This will obviously be the next 3 weeks of Memory Lane Mondays that we'll be doing the original trilogy. In celebration for this first one, I'm going to be drinking some blue milk. I believe it is thematic, so cheers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Watching this right now, you're saying, hey, that's not blue milk. That looks like a beer. Well, you'd be right. You know what else? Blue milk isn't real. Whatever is in this mug will not actually be blue milk. So regardless, I'm going to pretend that it is blue milk. So as far as I'm concerned, this is blue milk. So also, if you like what you are seeing, you can go ahead and go to that little Patreon link down there and you can become one of my patrons. The more people sign up, the more we can actually do with this thing. Eventually, hopefully, maybe we can get up to 3 normal videos a week. I can do giveaways. We can do merchandise. We can do live Q&As. We can do live commentary tracks. I need some extra gear to pull some of that stuff off. But you want to keep the lights on? You want to contribute? You want to keep this going as long as possible? Click on that Patreon link down there. There is absolutely nothing else for me to say at this point, so let's get to it. God, half this commentary is going to have to be muted because of the music, so I apologize for that in advance. Also, I didn't get to really show it in the intro, but I am totally wearing my Star Wars shirt that is completely faded. This thing's old. Well, I didn't get to see this originally when it came out in movie theaters. You bet I was there during the re-release in the late 90s, which was, it's already like the remaster with the new special effects and all that stuff, but I didn't care. I got to see the Star Wars logo on the big screen, and I was 14 or 15 when that happened, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a movie theater. Also, this is clearly not the first movie that has, an opening text explaining everything, or the trend now is a monologue, a voiceover explaining everything. And this is so iconic, in this movie that I'm willing to forgive it here. But in a lot of other places, it feels like lazy writing. I mean, this could also be considered lazy writing. You know, there's any number of ways of doing this. So I understand that now that I've, you know, studied writing and storytelling. I'm still going to forgive it. This is way too integral to my childhood and everything that I love about science fiction. Rendezvous with Rama made me love science fiction, but Star Wars made me love science fiction film. Those helmets always looked very impractical.
There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
Why, were we doing something right before this? Some major battle with lots of loss and, you know, some kind of heist of some sort? Did we not see that? You know, if either of them had been hit, the movie would have been over right there. There are going to be long stretches of this movie where I'm just staring at the screen, grinning like a complete idiot, and I will not apologize for that.
R2-D2, where are you?
Forever our princess.
The Death Star plans are not in the main computer.
Where are those transmissions you intercepted?
See, this is good managing style. You know, Vader lifts people up. He doesn't put them down.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
Yeah, except for that one. He's dead.
What are you talking about? I'm not getting in bed.
Didn't they just say take everybody alive? Who's blasting? There are days I still don't process that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us.
At the time, several transmissions were beamed to the ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away!
I mean, it's a barely full-based lie. That's a fairly bold-faced lie. She's going to Alderaan and she's on Tatooine. It's kind of like saying, I'm on my way to New York, but you are in Panama. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
I have traced the rebel spies to her. Now she is my only link to finding their secret base.
I am curious about... I mean, Rogue One was incredible. I love that movie. It is so good. But it did always strike me kind of weird that, oh, we traced the rebels to her. Like, this ship was literally at the battle at the end. Like, he almost boarded this specific ship. Like, it's not exactly... You don't need Sherlock Holmes to know... You need to find this one ship.
You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile. And don't let me catch you following me, begging for help, because you won't get it.
I mean, they argue all the time, but the makeup sex is fantastic. I used to have this theory when I was younger, and I'd seen the movie just for the first time. Completely nonsensical, but I had this theory that the Jawas were somehow related to Orko from Masters of the Universe. I mean, there's some family resemblance. They could be cousins. I remember seeing a while back that the trash can droid is basically like a walking generator. Like, it's a battery with legs, pretty much. I could be wrong.
Wake up!
Oh, he was in sleep mode. They can't all be bangers, alright? I really do think that one of the things that is just part of the appeal of Star Wars is just how much world building gets taken care of just with, one, the visuals, like I said, but also with the dialogue. Like, there, at least in the first three movies, like, there's a lot of things that get mentioned that never really get elaborated on. But you start getting a sense of what kind of world this is. I mean, Vader talked about the Imperial Senate, you know, Leia is a princess. So there's obviously some kind of royalty, nobility, but there's also some kind of, maybe not democracy, but a representative government of some sort. Like right there, we have no idea what bocce is, but we've already heard a bunch of different languages from the droids. The fact that these guys are showing up, like just this scene alone, like lets us know a lot about this culture. And I think the fact that a lot of it is left unspoken and unexplained really helps the fans like build these theories and kind of fill in the blanks. And when it's done right, it just fires up the imagination and and makes us want more.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
And you know, it took him 43 years, but he finally got those power converters. Really boggles my mind how R2 is so sympathetic and lovable and doesn't even have a face. I mean, all he can do is turn. I think it's that. It's the little motion he does when he's just on the two little legs. These little trills too. It's really well done work.
It just isn't fair. Oh, Biggs is right. I'm never gonna get out of here.
Is there anything I might
It was literally me growing up in Laredo, Texas.
Not unless you can alter.
And I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. And this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Hello.
He's my roommate.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
What's this?
Press 1 for English. Dos para español.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
Incest.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Sorry.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. I wonder if he means old Ben Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi going into hiding and just calling himself Ben Kenobi is kind of like Johnny Depp going into hiding and just changing his name to, I don't know, John Deep, which kind of sounds like a porn star name. Not that I know anything about porn stars. What's the internet?
Well, I don't know anyone named Obi-Wan, but old Ben lives out beyond the Dune Sea. He's kind of a strange old hermit.
Dune, Arrakis,
Who she is?
desert planet.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him. No, I don't think he likes you at all. No, I don't like you either.
That may genuinely be one of the funniest conversations in the entire Star Wars saga.
I think that R2 unit we bought might have been stolen.
Do you mean the little goblin-like creatures that scavenge the desert maybe have stolen some of it? Really?
He died about the same time as your father.
You knew my father?
Forget it.
Why would you even mention that if you don't want to make it a big thing?
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid.
They're both flammable? It's such a simple shot, but just the two suns, like we... Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that got thrown in there, like the skeleton in the desert, and the landscape itself has some alien elements to it, but this right here is just, it's such a small thing that just lets you know this is an alien world. Again, just world building. Get off my lawn!
I think he's searching for his former master, but I've never seen such devotion in a droid before.
I mean, with the way we abuse him and all.
I haven't gone by the name of Obi-Wan since before you were born.
No, you were still going by Obi-Wan after he was born. In fact, you were there. One of the first of many arms that will be lost during this film series.
I must have taken...
I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself.
Do you have any anger issues, unresolved mother issues, perhaps, that we should be talking about? You know, just in case. Just bringing it up.
Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
Did he?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights.
I mean, they missed a few dozen, but you know.
He betrayed.
They're more dangerous than you realize.
Dangerous to your Starfleet, Commander, not to this battle station.
Ooh, sass. See, wouldn't staff meetings at any job just be so much better if you could just choke somebody across the table? I mean, he sassed Darth Vader and survived. That's an accomplishment. Up until he gets blown up in a small supernova later in the movie.
We will then...
And these last points, too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
Are they?
Oh, wait, Luke! It's too dangerous.
You could try to stop him or something. Anything. Yell.
Help. Police. Murder. Stop. Don't. Stop. Don't. Come back.
I remember a long time ago I read that Leia's hairstyle was actually inspired by an indigenous Mexican hairstyle, and I've always taken a lot of pride in that. Yeah, let's throw another Jawa on the pile there.
I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
Well, not like your father, you know.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
I don't know, I've worked in DC. This scene is one of the ones that I remember even in the original remastered version had all these extra shots added to it, which was cool. I mean, it really fleshed out Mos Eisley, made it look that much more alien and real in some respects, but at the same time, I always thought, I don't know, something about adding all these extra shots and removing the shots that the special effects team made back in 1977. I don't know, it just felt wrong. That CG thing right there, that never looked right.
I can't abide those Jawas. Disgusting creatures.
That's because you're racist. Ladies and gentlemen, Figure and Dan and the Modal Nodes playing Jizz. That is the name of this musical genre in universe. Jizz. And no, I am not making that up. That is canon. This is what I mean by world building. There's just dozens of species in this one scene. I mean, there's a reason this scene is so iconic, because it kind of sets up everything, the look of the series, the feel of it, the fact that this is a huge galaxy with so many people and life forms and species. That's 2 limbs severed.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
And we're going to wait 40 years to actually make sure that we know what that actually means, because we know what a parsec means, and that's not the way you use it. And I know I'm not the first person to point that out.
I don't have it with me. Tell Jabba.
Do they still keep that little like dodge that he does so that he doesn't shoot first? I haven't seen this version of the movie yet.
Yes, I bet you have.
I'm gonna have to watch that in slow motion on the edit to see who actually fired first, because it looked like they both fired at the same time.
Sorry about the mess.
Which is not as bad as Han not shooting first. I mean, the whole point of that scene is to kind of set him up as a scoundrel, you know, someone who will shoot you to save himself.
Yes, I bet you have.
I don't need sleep. I need answers.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. You watch your language.
And that door closes and they just make out like high school freshmen. I remember the hype for this scene during the re-release in the late 90s, because, you know, we get to see Jabba the Hutt 2 movies early. I don't know why it doesn't look good. I mean, I know it's like late 90s CGI. I'm pretty sure this is probably updated for Disney Plus. I remember they did some updating like over the years for the re-releases. But I think what bugs me is that he doesn't look like Jabba the Hutt. Like, the coloring looks off. The texture looks off. Hey kids, it's Boba Fett! I want that ship. If you offered me the Enterprise, Battlestar Galactica, and this ship, I would take this ship. Again, this style that I love of just like the technology has a weight to it. None of the stupid transparent screens or holograms or any of that. No, there's buttons you push. Like, things have to be like touched and moved and maneuvered. It feels more real in a lot of ways. I love that Solo's gun is basically a grenade launcher. I mean, look at that thing.
Safe enough once we make the jump to hyperspace. Besides, I know a few maneuvers. We'll lose them.
By maneuver, he means just fly in a straight line. I will never get tired of that effect, ever. Now, while I'm very critical of the special effects that were replaced in the remastered versions, I will admit, reluctantly, that the explosion of Alderaan in the newer versions is a step up from the older one, which very much looked like a model. Obviously, it's a model, but the old version just looked like, I don't know, there was something about it that it looked like it was like there were frames missing. I don't know, something about it. Yeah. By the way, if you've ever wondered how powerful was that blast from the Death Star, almost 20 years ago, Mike Wong over at StarDestroyer.net actually crunched the numbers, all right? And his website, StarDestroyer.net, if you've never looked at it and you have curiosity when it comes to like weapons and Star Wars and Star Trek, because the whole point of the website was who would win in a fight between the Empire and the Federation. He crunched the numbers. He looked at the films, the shows, all this, and tried to figure out like how powerful are these weapons. And according to his analysis, the Death Star, the blast from it, is somewhere in the order of 1 to the 38th power joules. To put that into perspective, the sun, I think, puts out something on the order of 4 to the 27th joules per second, or 4 to the 27th watts. So the Death Star in one blast puts out the energy that the sun puts out roughly every 3,000 years. And that's why the Empire would win in a fight between Star Wars and Star Trek. I am sorry, I am a Trekkie as well. I am a second generation Trekkie, but the math doesn't lie. If you want to fight me on it, go to the comment section.
I suggest you try it again, Luke. This time, let go your conscious self and act on instinct.
Just like be one with the Force, man.
That's good. You've taken your first step into a larger world.
A franchise that will rule you for the next 45 years.
Not if I can help it. Chewie, jam its transmissions.
It would be as well to let it go. It's too far out of range.
Not for long.
Wasn't it like just like less than 100 yards away?
That size couldn't get this deep. Your destiny lies along a different path from mine.
You've got several more movies in you, boy.
I'm afraid she's scheduled to be terminated.
They're sending Schwarzenegger after her? The hell does that thing do anyway? Like, what's the purpose of that thing? I'm sure I'm going to look it up right after this, and yeah.
I can't see a thing in this helmet.
I think one of the funniest parts about this whole thing is Han just casually waving like, hey, you're going to come in here? Do you need to go up, down? Where are you going to go? Or the fact that they're facing the wrong way. There's a lot of like really subtle humor in this, actually.
The Jedi are extinct. Their fire has gone out of the universe. You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion.
But you and, the Emperor.
I'm gonna kill her, or I'm beginning to like her.
Well, you're going to marry her and have a kid who's going to stab you. But that's neither here nor there.
It's worse.
There's something alive in here.
Why is there a monster in the garbage system?
That's my leg.
Look, did you see that?
I vaguely remember having to fight one of these things in Shadows of the Empire game on N64? Vaguely. And bonk!
They're madmen. They're heading for the prison level. If you hurry, you might catch them.
I think one of the things that doesn't get discussed enough is the fact that 3PO actually has like character development throughout these movies. I mean, in this first one, he talks about how he is not very good at telling stories, and yet one of the most heartwarming scenes in Return of the Jedi is him telling a story and having a rapt audience. And then here he actually lied and got away with it and tricked them. Does no one notice this guy walking around a military installation in what's basically a bathrobe?
The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
I know there is this very popular video of... Is it a remix? Is that the term for it? Somebody who went ahead and redid this scene so that it incorporates a lot of the aesthetic of the prequel trilogy and shows Obi-Wan and Darth Vader being more active in this scene, which makes sense because you see them, I don't know, just be more active, because this scene, when you compare it to some of the stuff that happened in the prequel trilogy, you know, especially Revenge of the Sith, it looks very tame. Now, realistically, that's because this was obviously shot with a very limited budget, and they didn't have the money for things like wire stunts and things like that. But even before that, I do remember reading an article about somebody who was analyzing this scene and comparing it to the prequel trilogy. And what they explained was that this scene, as originally shot, actually makes sense, even taking into account all the acrobatics in, you know, episode 2 and episode 3. Because what they're doing here is that they are fighting, according to this article, they're fighting like two kendo masters. The moves may look slow and deliberate, but what you're not seeing is all these calculations that are going on in their heads about all the moves that they could be making. In other words, there's a part of the fight that we're not seeing. As they're facing each other off, they're already calculating all the things that the other person is going to do. So the move they end up making may look slow to us, but to them, it is the culmination of decades of training and practice. That is the only move that they can make that they feel works. So in that context, I actually prefer this version. And given that information, that this is the way that kendo masters would fight, I actually prefer this version to the other online version. Now, that's not to say that the other online version isn't a success from a technical point of view, from just a filmmaking point of view. It is wonderful. I'm not trying to take that away from it, but I prefer this scene to it, because I think this tells us, knowing that, this tells us a story about how much these two have grown in the ways of the Force, in maturity, just everything. I think the hilarious part about that is that Darth Vader is literally kicking Obi-Wan's robes like, what the hell just happened? Because he doesn't know about this.
That's impossible, even for a computer. But it's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They're not much more than 2 meters.
Yeah, but you weren't flying at like Mach 10.
And may the Force be...
You sure you can handle this shit?
Sir, Luke is the best bush pilot in the Outer Rim territories.
You'll do all right.
Thank you, sir. I'll try. I gotta get aboard.
I don't know. I think there's a big difference between being able to drive a speeder and basically fly a high-tech F-16. Just the fact that all of this, like, they're all like physical props and the sound effects and everything. there's a physicality and a weight and a realism to these things that clearly they're not real. Obviously they're not real, but I don't know, man. A good combination of physical and CGI gives you a realism and a weight and a connection to the scene that you don't get with one or the other.
If you pick one up, watch it. I can't see it.
Thanks, Napoleon. Great strategy. Perfectly flat. Where's the curve?
Hold up here and wait for my signal.
Why is that the only like American Southern accent that we get? It's a me, Mario.
Negative. It didn't go in. Just impacted on the surface.
Well, it happens sometimes, you know, you're... Oh, you mean the torpedoes, yeah.
R2, that stabilizer's broken loose again. See if you can't lock it down.
I've seen this dozens of times. Why am I still looking at it like it's the first time I've seen it?
His computer's off. Luke, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm all right.
It's okay. The ghost of my mentor is talking to me. He's letting me know it's going to be okay.
What?
I don't know why, but Darth Vader's "what" will always be a hilarious delivery from James Earl Jones. And Chewbacca's just looking on there like, where's my medal? Where's R2's medal? You know, the guy deserves like a Purple Heart at least. Star Wars Episode 4. Let's talk about it. I don't know what else to say that I didn't say during the commentary. Obviously an iconic film. It very much shaped my perception of what was possible to do in science fiction film. I don't know if I cut it out in the editing process, but as far as science fiction literature, Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke was the book that made me fall in love with science fiction as a genre. But this movie is what made me fall in love with science fiction in film. And looking back on it all these years later, I mean, obviously there's stuff that is flawed. I wish I could have pulled up the version that I saw when I was 9 or 10 years old, the one before George Lucas went and redid a bunch of the scenes. I do think there's some of the remastered effects and things like that that do help the story and help make the movie look better. But I have a huge problem with replacing some of these shots wholeheartedly. That being said, as a whole, this is very clearly the start of something big. This was the beginning of a franchise, a fandom that is still going strong. For better or worse, the fandom itself has a lot of problems, but this is something that is definitely game-changing for a lot of reasons. For me, this was my first real introduction to the space opera, an introduction to science fantasy. Those of you that follow me on Facebook, you know that I am an ardent supporter of realism in science fiction. This is very clearly not that kind of genre, but I'm okay with it because at least it remains consistent to those aesthetics and those rules. This was the beginning of a lifetime of obsession with movies like this, stories like this. You know, this is my first real introduction. I didn't know it to the hero's journey. So we're going to watch the whole trilogy. This is only episode 4. Episode 5 is very much coming next week, and then Return of the Jedi. And I don't know where we'll go from there, but whatever else happens, whatever else happened after this movie came out, this was a life-altering experience for me, as I'm sure it was for millions of people. I still watch this movie. It's been at least 10 years since I sat down and watched this movie just straight through. And I still look at it like I saw it the first time. There's a sense of wonder and excitement and just happiness watching it that I don't get with a lot of movies. So it's really hard to think that Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, because she's been such an iconic part of my childhood and a lot of people's childhood and lives. So watching this and seeing her this young, just at, you know, beginning this journey, it's weird, it's bittersweet. You know, forever our princess, even though she's now forever our general. She earned that. If you like what you're seeing, there is a link to a Patreon down there. If you want to be a part of Q&As, if you want to be a part of polls, if you want to tell me what to watch next, if you want to be a part of the discussion, go ahead and sign up. The more people sign up, eventually this can become a full-time gig. I can make more videos, I can do giveaways, I can do merch. The bigger this gets, the more I can offer. So, thank you very much for watching. I had a blast. I hope you did too. Until next time, see you later.